So I rarely make any of these videos where I talk about really old devices, but the iPhone 10 to me deserves this video, right? 2023 iPhone 10. It is incredible to think that this iPhone still supports the latest operating system. I wanted to share with you guys my experience over the past several days of testing the iPhone 10 on the latest OS in 2023. This device really is a turning point for Apple, right? It was so important because when Apple announced the iPhone 10, they announced it alongside the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus as well. But this was sort of the bridge, right? Because it was the moment turning point from Touch ID to Face ID devices. The operating system also took a major change from a button clicking on Touch ID or the home button to a gesture-based operating system. So this iPhone means a lot to Apple. It was a transitioning moment. And as I mentioned, it is 2023 and I went a few days using the iPhone 10 and I wanted to share with you guys my personal experience on how I feel about the iPhone 10 right now in 2023. Now, over the past couple of days, of course, I switched from the iPhone 14 Pro Max to the iPhone 10, and I wanted to share a few downsides and what was great about the iPhone over the past couple of days that I've used it. And now, the first thing to note is that this design, can we take a moment to appreciate the design of iPhone 10? Till this day, 2023, almost 6 years later, this iPhone feels almost as if it was a brand new device. The quality, the way it looks, the shine, it just looks like a new device. Again, this is a 6-year-old device and it's kept up very, very well throughout the years. That's the first thing I want to point out because design is very important. It's easily on my top 5 most beautiful designs from Apple, in my opinion. Now, of course, the phone can be beautiful, a great design. However, the operating system and the way it works is most important, obviously, because you're going to be using the phone day in and day out. And I want to start off with that, the upside, the great things about the iPhone 10 that I've noticed till this day, almost 6 years later, running on this device. I have to say that the battery basically lasts me all day. I only had to plug in for a couple of minutes and I got through my entire day with no problem. So great battery life on the latest iOS 16.5 for the iPhone 10. I have no complaints. The size of this device is almost perfect in the hand. It feels a lot better than one of these bigger iPhone 14 Pro Maxes. However, I do use this as my daily. It is Apple's most newest, most powerful device. That is the main reason I use it. But this size here, to me, is the most comfortable use of an iPhone size, in my opinion. I would like to hear from you in those comments down below if you own a smaller or a bigger iPhone in your case. Now, battery, as I mentioned, is great on the iPhone 10. The latest 16.5 is running buttery smooth. Everything is launched as intended. Everything is quick and snappy. The operating system feels great on the iPhone 10 till this day, which is amazing. Hard to say. Not many companies can actually say, hey, my 5.5-year-old device is still running the latest OS and it's running smooth. Of course, every operating system is going to have a few bugs here and there, but the iPhone 10 performed very, very well where it mattered. Now, also, the camera, I didn't have any complaints. The camera shooting at 4K 60 frames. I did go to a baseball game. Things were smooth butter. Everything was nice. I didn't have any complaints. Bluetooth, Face ID, Apple Pay, all these things worked as intended on this iPhone 10, and I'm happy to see that this device still has this level of performance so many years down the road. Now, of course, as I mentioned, there's always a downside to an operating system and a device in general, so I want to talk about that next, the downsides. But before we get to that, I want to talk about today's sponsors, Ugreen, and their brand new Nexo Mini 30-watt fast charger. This thing is so compact and portable. It's almost the same size of those 5-watt small chargers that Apple used to give out with the iPhones back in the day. This thing is so small, USB-C, so compact. The quality and build of this product is just so awesome. For what you get here, for the price, a 30-watt mini charger, which is fast charging from Ugreen. I highly recommend you check it out. Of course, links will always be in the description down below. This is Ugreen's Nexo Mini 30-watt fast charger. So there was only 2 downsides that I noticed in regards to iPhone 10 in comparison to a brand new iPhone 14 Pro Max, for example. And number 1 was the refresh rate. Now, most of us maybe not notice this. If you don't have a Pro device, then you may not even notice this at all. But the refresh rate from 60 to 120 hertz, I can definitely tell the difference. Of course, there's 5.5 years difference here. But if you're not so concerned about the refresh rate, or if you haven't tried it yet, you might not even care or notice this on the iPhone 10. And one thing I did notice, however, that was a little bit annoying was the brightness on the display. So of course the newer iPhones have great brightness, amazing brightness by the way, but the iPhone 10 sort of lacks a little bit of more of a punch onto the display brightness, especially under direct sunlight. So two downsides here: display brightness, which is in my opinion most important to me, especially if you're out and about in direct sunlight. Not if you're in dark environments, you'll be fine there. And of course the refresh rate. The refresh rate is something that really caught my eye since I'm using iPhone 14 Pro Max for the most part. When I went back to the iPhone 10, I noticed that the refresh rate just was a little off there. Just for a couple of minutes, it took me some time to get adjusted. But those, in my opinion, are either minor or major, depending on who you are. But in my opinion, I can definitely get over those factors when using iPhone 10 after 5.5 to 6 years later. I don't think that's a major complaint. But now, I want to go ahead and talk about iOS 17 support. Will this iPhone, or should this iPhone, get iOS 17 support? This is a question that I get every single day. Do I believe this iPhone deserves iOS 17 support? And what are the chances of this iPhone getting iOS 17 support? Well, we're less than a month away as of the filming of this video from Apple announcing iOS 17 Developer Beta 1. And I have to say that if iOS 17 is a bug fixes and performance update, then I say yes, definitely the iPhone 10 deserves a spot in iOS 17. So is the iPhone 8 and iPhone 8 Plus. These are very capable devices. As you can see, it runs buttery smooth, everything running as intended. However, the other side of that, if iOS 17 is feature packed and adding a ton of functionality that may cripple the performance of iPhone 10, then I would say no. Let's just keep it at iOS 16 and move on towards the future with the next devices. But iPhone 10 just deserves its own spot, its own video. I went back a couple of years for a couple of days, and I have to say this iPhone still feels as fresh as it did when I first got it. So there you guys have it. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.